Please be seated. This past week, I traveled to Arizona for a clergy leaders gathering, and on the flight from DFW to Phoenix, I took advantage of the in-flight entertainment system and selected what I thought would be a rather frivolous movie to help pass the time. Long Story Short is what I chose, and it is a film about a man who always seems to be waiting for later. At the beginning of the movie, he has finally asked his girlfriend of many years to marry him, but he's in no hurry to set a date for the wedding. That can wait for later. And then he meets a mysterious stranger who offers him an unknown wedding gift. And when he opens it on the day of his wedding, it takes effect. The gift is that, beginning on the morning after he has wed his bride, every few minutes, he fast forwards to a year later, the next anniversary of their marriage. In that first confusing moment, he wakes up to find that his wife is suddenly and significantly pregnant. Before he can get a grip on what is happening to him, time fast forwards again, and he meets his daughter. Quickly, this wedding gift is becoming a curse. He doesn't understand what is happening, and he cannot control it. But even worse than that, with each anniversary moment that passes, he's watching his marriage unravel, and he feels powerless to fix it. He loves his wife like he just married her yesterday, because he did. But because of this gift, he becomes a witness as his wife experiences the slow erosion of a relationship marred by misplaced priorities and a failure to embrace life in the moment. Long Story Short offered an intriguing premise. What would our lives look like if we could rewind to the beginning and then fast forward through a series of moments? What story would those moments tell? What priorities would they reveal? Would those excerpts narrate the kind of life for which we have hoped? Today we've had the opportunity to read from the Bible another long story short, the book of Ruth, which is actually the story of two women, Naomi and her daughter-in-law Ruth. A book of only 4 chapters could never hope to capture a whole life, much less 2. So the story is given to us in a series of moments. Naomi marries Elimelech, a man of Bethlehem in Judah, and together they have 2 sons. Famine forced the family to move to Moab, a foreign country. Elimelech died, and their 2 sons marry Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. More years pass, and both of Naomi's sons die, leaving now 3 widows, Naomi and her daughters-in-law. So at the end of the famine in Judah, Naomi determines that she should return to her homeland. It seems her greatest hope. And she tells her daughters-in-law to stay in Moab, where they have kin who can protect them. Orpah goes, but Ruth refuses. Ruth is determined to stay with Naomi. Back in Bethlehem, Naomi sends Ruth to glean from the fields of Boaz, a kinsman of Elimelech. Boaz is generous with Ruth, and Naomi sees an opportunity. Seizing it, Naomi gives her daughter-in-law a little advice, and pretty soon, Ruth is wed to Boaz. And once again, the 2 women have family. they are protected. Ruth and Boaz have a son together, Obed. Obed becomes the father of Jesse. Jesse becomes the father of David. As we have fast-forwarded through these moments in the life of Naomi and Ruth, we have a fairly straightforward story arc, one in which everything seems to work out in the end. And I wouldn't argue with that ending. It is good. But we have rather skimmed past all the complexities to which the book of Ruth points. Ruth also tells us of the terrible grief of Naomi, who witnessed the deaths of her husband and both of her sons. Naomi is not just sad, she is angry at God and bitter. She's very nearly left alone, and in a world where women needed husbands and sons for their protection and for their welfare, she is left destitute. Like for many of us, life sort of happens to Naomi and Ruth, and not very kindly either. Yet there is one moment in the story upon which every other moment hinges. It's the moment of decision for Ruth, when Naomi has chosen to return to her homeland. Ruth can choose safety and security, stability for herself, stay in Moab and find a new husband from among her kinsmen. Or she can risk herself by refusing to abandon her late husband's mother. For her own good, Naomi tries to send Ruth away from her, but Ruth knows to whom she belongs. "Do not press me to leave you," she says, "or to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. There I will be buried." Ruth cannot fix the fact that Naomi is a widow. She can't undo the tragedies that they have experienced. She can't change the reality of the patriarchal society in which they live, nor the barriers that existed between their peoples. But she can choose not to leave Naomi alone in it. She can choose love over fear. And it turns out that her courageous choice to love is the most powerful thing that she could have done. Their stories turn on this choice to love, because together they find their way. In fact, the whole drama hinges on this moment for Ruth. Scholars say that Ruth redefines the biblical understanding of family, centering not on clan and blood relationships, but on acts of love and loyalty. The wisdom of our faith tradition says that family is about love and loyalty more than it is about blood and kin. So it is not insignificant then that as a foreigner, Ruth becomes the great-grandmother of David. She becomes the ancestor of Jesus. Without Ruth's expanded definition of family, there can be no promised future for Israel, no Messiah for the world. Her love brought her there. Many, many centuries later, when Jesus is asked, which is the greatest commandment, he echoes the faith of his ancestors and the actions of his many times great-grandmother Ruth when he answers, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Like the scribe who asked the question, you probably knew that answer. You know the great commandment. You've got the right answer, but you know what? The scribe missed the point. Because this is more than just a right answer. The great commandment is how all those quickly passing moments that we experience can be transformed into a life. Love is how we write the story, a story that is worth telling. The lesson of this long story short is that love cannot wait for later. Now is the moment to get our priorities straight. And you don't have to spend too much time thinking about what those priorities should be. Love God, love your neighbor. You do have to decide what that's going to look like in your life. But the time to love God and the time to love your neighbor is not later, but now. In the present moment, when you can embrace the life that God has given you by working for justice and creating peace, by standing with those who are alone and comforting those who are troubled and empowering those who are disenfranchised. Now is the moment. None of us get every moment right, but every next moment is a new chance to try. Perhaps when the next generation tells your story, they will remember what you did today, what you did this week. So whatever it is that you're going to do today, make it something good. Make it something that makes a difference for someone else. Make it an act of love worth remembering. Yet whether it is remembered or not, rest assured that no act of love ever goes to waste in God's kingdom.